All right, welcome to the Ops staff meeting for December 17th. Just trying to pull up the agenda here. One thing, Gregor, for folks that haven't attended, it's an optional thing, but we kind of kick off the meeting with a little good news. So, feel free if you have anything good, or you can also share bad news framed as good news. So I guess I'll let Dan start because he got through the agenda first.
Yeah, I did a pretty big ride on the weekend in sand on my 790, which is not exactly a small bike and not really that set up for riding in sand. I did take several naps and didn't get hurt, so that's very good. And I say nap because we got on my bike and I got tired and we had to lie down for a while and then we got up and kept going. So that was good. Over to you, Sam.
Well, Crystal's back, so that's my first piece of good news. My dog has a skin infection, but it's getting much better, so that's really good. And we're going to go to the Christmas tree farm on Thursday, so I'll be taking that day off. FYI. Crystal, off to you.
So it's my first day back after 2 weeks off, and it's been really nice in Portland. We have had more sun than I think we had all summer. And so I ran way too many miles and I'm really, really sore. And then I did a ton of yard work. So I will be mostly sitting for the rest of this week.
Okay, so next point is mine. So it's still quite warm here in Poland. It's above 0. Today it was 5 degrees centigrade, and I'm still having fun riding my motorcycle, although it's a little freezing in your hands sometimes. 5 degrees is like, warm enough, but not very pleasant, although I still have a lot of fun. So yeah.
I just posted a link to a tweet from Lifetime TV that I found in Slack, actually, and it's hilarious. So if the trailer isn't there, I'll just link the trailer to you. But it's just a ridiculous, silly Lifetime movie. Not that I watch Lifetime, but I just thought it was funny and had to share. So moving on.
This is a real movie. This is not like a joke.
Yeah, I thought it was an Onion article, but I think it's a real movie about Colonel Sanders, and it's sponsored by Kentucky Fried Chicken.
As you'd expect.
Yeah.
All right, cool. Thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Cool, quick FYI, you may or may not have noticed I made an update to the invite of this meeting where I invited all the skip level managers and also Greg Gorsh as a skip level. So, everyone was always welcome to attend, but I figure, maybe that gives people a little more visibility, creates some more transparency. I also updated the skip level meetings. All that's on the ops subdepartment page if you care, but cool. Next item, I guess, also from me, reminder, annual engagement survey is out. And so encourage you to multimodally encourage people to fill that out. It's really valuable to get that feedback. I'm not sure where we're at as a development department right now, but we were looking a little low at least a week or two ago, and it's way better, in my opinion, to get a survey results where it's like, oh, 80, 90, 100% of people filled it out, than 40, 50, 60. It's much easier to interpret when you have a high response rate. So please encourage that. And all right, next item, me again. Feel free, everybody, to jump in if you have questions, obviously, or this one might be a little more discussion. So this is an MR I wanted to share. This kind of started coming together last week, and it's an MR to add root cause labels to incident issues. So what that will, previous to this, there was analysis of the root cause. The root cause was written up. You could, go very deep into the root cause, but what you're not able to very easily do is ask a question like, oh, how many incidents, what percentage of incidents are being caused by a code change versus, some other factor. And so this should enable some of those kind of reporting on trends, and I think it'll be valuable. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm kind of interested to see the data come in, and I think can kind of help us inform some of our quality reliability efforts at some point, where we might say, oh, a lot of our, issues are being caused by, saturation. It's not actually changes, or a lot of people, a lot of them are being caused by changes, and so I think that'll be useful. Another thing I should probably say, a caveat, is that the goal isn't necessarily to get to 0 incidents, and that you could, another way this data could be useful is if we find, at some point, hey, none of our incidents are caused by code changes. That might be a bad thing. It might mean that we're not being aggressive enough in terms of like taking risks and pushing forward. So that was a spiel there. Dan, you had a comment?
Yeah, just on the subject of labeling around incidents, one of the things that has come up for me around some of the outages the package had were these just dependent service idea of like where GCS goes out, or Postgres, there's an outage that affects these dependent services, and there's currently no way to label that appropriately. And so it's really hard for those incidents to be discoverable by the teams that are actually affected by those outages. Anthony Sandoval created a couple of issues, but I don't know how prioritized that is, and I'm not sure whether I should keep pushing on that, or whether it's not directly exactly what you're talking about, but it's sort of like discoverability of labeling.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm not really sure. I know that there's some resistance in terms of like adding too many labels, because you could see how you can go down that path. That came up in this root cause discussion. At the same time, I think, for me, I'm pretty interested in like just more visibility and data around, that stuff, because I think that can help guide our efforts. I think it might be kind of related. I just happened to see this morning. So this was a comment from Andrew Newdigate about it's on a different topic, which is kind of shared ownership model for various services, like who owns the DB or things like that. And Andrew's basically pointing out several things that may be kind of related to what you said, like a service catalog, which is a typical way to kind of map dependencies between services and ownership. And then various ways they're trying to add like team attribution to various, to like controllers and sidekick jobs. So I don't know, does that get it all? I'm not sure I'm responding very well to your point, Dan.
No, that's all right. It was sort of a little bit of a side point. I was trying to say, Chun pinged me on that early on. So I've added release, I've had Pages container registry, and that GitLab, the Kubernetes agent, to that already for the teams. I think we don't necessarily have to label everything. We could actually even have like a danger bot on this type of thing, where we could have a dependent service mapping that allows DangerBot to say, oh, GCS is out. Oh, I know from this dependent service mapping that I should ping the package team with this, or just put a message in there for the package team or whatever, container registry. It doesn't have to be all labels, but having that mapping is what's missing, I think. And so we might want to push on that a little bit.
Yeah, I would agree, but any other thoughts on that, or move on? Cool. Yeah, we talked about this a little bit this morning. There was Kenny has a ops section managers meeting that Darby and Dan and I were in. So there was some good discussion of this there. Gregorish, you want to verbalize your comment there?
Yeah, so in Slack, I commented with my concerns about domain knowledge that might be required to maintain and extend out of DevOps. Of course, it's not a blocker. Domain knowledge can be built. There's not enough domain knowledge right now in pipeline authoring.
Mm-hmm.
And auto DevOps is quite complex. It requires Kubernetes experience, Docker, CI in general, templating, all this stuff. And it's a scarce resource right now in pipeline authoring. Just wanted to let you know that it might be a problem. It might actually result in some minor velocity loss, right? But
Yeah.
it's important to mention that.
Thanks for that. Maybe from the previous discussion, Grigor, I'd be really interested to get your take on this. I'd say maybe what's driving this desire to move auto DevOps is not so much that like what's there, isn't that there's a problem with what's there, but more that maybe there's a big piece of it which we're missing, which is kind of this user experience piece, kind of how do we guide you into GitLab and help you use it in kind of an automatic way. And I would kind of think of it almost like an assistant or something, that's like, hey, here, let's help you set up some CI pipeline. Oh, you may want to add this new feature in and kind of help you manage that over time. And so there's kind of this experiential aspect of it that's more in my mind related to new customer experience and onboarding and kind of the, this kind of integrated DevOps platform experience of like, that you can pull from all these places and maybe there's more automation intelligence applied to that over time. So, take as a premise that we're missing some piece, maybe that hasn't been focused on, and there's been more focus on things like, deployment templates to various CI templates, plugging in security scanning to pipelines. So say we're kind of missing that piece, the goal would be to, put that piece in a place where it's really, should be on. There's this other piece of it where we say like, okay, that's like the framework. That's like the container, that like auto DevOps bucket that you can put all things. And then there's the, security scanning, there's the, deployment, there's build, all these different pieces that kind of hang in the bucket. And so does it make any sense to say, well, you could have those pieces owned by different teams, like Configure continues to manage the auto deploy Kubernetes integration piece, but there's this other thing that pipeline authoring could focus on that's that more central piece, kind of a technical and maybe also like philosophical, I don't know, does that hold together at all for you?
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting question. I feel like we can try to do things like that, provided that we take care of proper decoupling of concerns. Currently, Auto DevOps is quite tangled, so it might require some amount of untangling to actually separate it well enough so that other different teams could actually maintain the whole concept. And I think it should be possible, but not right away. It's something that might require some work, some groundwork to actually prepare Auto DevOps for being maintained this way.
Cool, thanks for that. All right.
I don't really have anything to add to that. We talked basically about the same thing earlier today, and kind of the same points were made about like the state that it's in now is not going to set us up to do that immediately, but if we did some work, we could get there probably. So.
And I'll just, thanks, Dario. I'll just paste in the agenda for that in case anybody's interested. There's a recording as well someplace, but you can read the notes there. All right. I guess last item I just wanted to share the Q3 SUS results, which is user experience. I forget exactly what SUS stands for, but it's the user experience scores. There's a slide deck there. There's a results spreadsheet there. You can literally go through. I haven't done this myself, but I'm going to try to and like read every comment that somebody wrote about why they do or don't like GitLab. And I kind of tried to summarize in E from the presentation. Also in the slides, there's some summary, but we've continued to see that trend of we drop, a 0.5 point to a point every quarter in SUS score. a really interesting point that was made was that some of that could be attributable to new user growth, in that if you look at new users that have been using GitLab for less than 6 months, their SUS score is like 50, it's like really pretty bad. It's like 55 or something. If you look at overall, we're at like 70, I think 70 or 71. And so there's a big delta there between you started using and you've been using greater than 6 months. And as we're growing our user base and kind of, doing this scaling phase, you're going to have a higher proportion of new users. So that may actually in some way kind of explain that, predictable decline that we see. So I thought that was super interesting. In terms of, why, is the score not, it's not so, I think 71 is not so bad. I'll caveat with that, but why is it not better? Why is it worse for new users? You can read all that data. But the big themes are really, performance is a big one. People, perceive GitLab as slow. Navigation code review comes up a lot. Project management, but yeah, performance and reliability definitely come in, and performance sometimes in ways you might not expect, where like people say, oh, you can't handle big merge requests. Like I can't review large merge requests because it's too slow. So, that is a performance consideration, but yeah, may not be where like our engineering minds go first. And there is some stuff in there. I haven't really gone into it specific to verify. So that might be pretty interesting for you, Grigorsh and Darby. I think that's primarily because of usage. You see most of the feedback around merge requests and CI and forget where else, but kind of the most highly used areas. So I wouldn't take it as to mean that experience is worse there, but that maybe more people are experiencing it. Dan?
Yeah, I was just wondering how we can support as a PI for the UX organization that you linked above. Like, thoughts on how we could support driving that?
Yeah, that came up in, this was discussed in, Eric's staff meeting. There is a list of like kind of actionable things in there that they're looking for DRIs on. I don't think kind of a grounds up way is the right way to drive this, but it could be useful to review those and just, understand, oh, is there anything they've identified that kind of is relevant to your role? I think probably for us, some of the biggest things I think are performance. So, we have the LCP OKR, and I believe both from this data and my personal experience, that's probably pretty important in driving this metric. Aside from that, I'm not sure exactly what the actionable things are. I need to spend more time with it, and I'm not sure I have a real theme. I think there may be something for relevant to us around like the cross stage, like user experience navigation, but anyway, I'll stop there because I don't know.
Yeah, I think because like on face value, I kind of go, okay, what can we do to support? But product is ultimately going to prioritize any of these efforts. So it feels like product and UX need to like decide how much we want to invest in this. But I just want to know what I can do to help drive the initiative if this is a priority, which it sounds like it is.
Yeah, I think it is a priority, and definitely the performance aspects are. I guess what I would suggest is I would spend some time review the data. I'm planning to do that this week, and then see if you can identify any things, because I think that's the other thing we can we'll need product to prioritize it, and obviously UX, the designers are going to be important to this effort, but really good ideas can come from anywhere, right? And sometimes it's it's an engineer and some team that's just it's obvious, right? And like that, oh, this could be so much better if we just did this. So I think looking at it yourself, seeing if there's any kind of good actions or plans that you would propose out of those, and then encouraging your teams to do the same thing, not as like a like a thing they have to do, but we can always solicit input and ideas. And I think the more people hear about that, usability is important, performance is important, that it just helps them also kind of keep that top of mind in their day-to-day, where the difference between a good experience and a less good experience might not cost any effort. It might just be the engineer that's implementing that at that moment kind of recognizing, oh, I should do it this way, because I know, because I'm thinking about usability. Crystal,
Oh, I was just looking through the data in the spreadsheet, and the number of new users reporting there is very low compared to mature users. So I'm not sure how reliable that is. Just some of the comments in there were coming from product managers and just kind of like process-based things around. And I know there's a pretty steep learning curve on learning the kind of GitLab directed workflow process.
yeah, great point. And that did come up. That was discussed. It is a low end number for new users, and so I think that 55 or whatever it is, you can't. There's going to be a wider margin of error there, but from the sound of it, at least my understanding of the data, we've seen that pattern repeatedly. So it's like, in every one of these that we've done, new users are, 20 points lower. And I think there's also like at least some anecdotal things I've heard, where there's a story Christy in design likes to tell of like, people saying that, I love GitLab and, I love using it every day, but I'm worried about my teammate, the other people in my company that are starting to use it now. Like those are the ones I worry about. And so, it's hard for me to like, really weigh that and like know exactly it is, but I think that there is some, some evidence that, yeah, the experience is harder for newcomers than returning users.
For those of us who joined GitLab in the last couple of years, sorry, Shagorsh, like how long did it take you to ramp up on the tools that we use every day? I think that it took me a while, maybe 6 months. So, my experience maybe aligns with like what this data is showing. But you're right, Crystal, it is a small sample set.
Yeah, I agree with that. We do have a lot of features. CI is getting more and more complex. Becoming proficient with it, it's sometimes a struggle. For example, we do have rules with variables expressions, and in order to use rules with variables expression, even if you only want to run a pipeline on a master, it used to be only -master, and now it's rules if CI pipeline branch name equals master, and there is this variable expression. So in that regard, we made it a little more tough for users instead of making it more simple.
What I kind of wonder, I don't know if this is realistic or not, but I wonder if the auto DevOps conversation is related to this, where like, is auto DevOps actually a tool we could use to drive up SUS score? Because, some of those things you're describing, it's like it's complicated to write the YAML, but what if like, there was an experience that really, I don't know, helped guide that in a more intelligent way? Would that help a new user, or would it help people cross stages, which is another thing that we're not seeing as much of as we'd like?
That's a good question.
Go ahead.
Okay, so I think that in case of auto DevOps, it might make some things much more simple for some amount of users, but for others, it's going to be very rigid and inflexible tool that is going to make a lot of things more complex for them, because DevOps is a broad topic and you can't really automate everything. The more complex your use case is, the more difficult it's going to be to use auto DevOps. If you have a very simple use case, it might be actually a good start, but for anything a little bit more complex, it's going to be more like an obstacle than a simplification.
Yeah, I think I was going to kind of align with that. Like this, I think the spirit of auto DevOps is like automate as much as we can. I think like right now where we are with it is like it tries to automate some things, but then it's opinionated in certain ways that make it harder for people to do things. And like, I think it results in this thing where you can go 3 steps down the path with it and it does everything for you and it's really easy. And then you get to step 4 and you have to start over because it doesn't do that next step that you need it to do. And then you have to go and write everything from scratch anyway. So it doesn't grow with organization's needs as well. And I think that's just because it's so coupled together. Like everything it's all in one place. So.
And I have the luxury of like never having worked on that code or have any, like direct connection to like the practicalities of doing this. But, I kind of think of it as like my analogy for what auto DevOps could be, it's like Google navigation, for DevOps, where you think about, 10 years ago, or I don't know, 15 years ago, like if you needed to navigate to a store on the other side of town, like you'd like get out your map and you'd like chart your route, figure out, oh, I got to turn here, turn there. And, then today the experience is really different because there's this, AI kind of intelligence applied to it. And it's like, you've got the assistant in the car that's saying, turn left, turn right, there's an accident 5 miles ahead, get off here. And that to me is kind of what auto DevOps could be, where it's like, it's the system that is, automating the setup of your automation, and it's more iterative. It's not like, oh, just one shot and either it works or not, but it's like, oh, hey, there's a new security scanning thing. Like, you probably want to integrate that in, hit this button, okay, and we'll update your templates. Like that type of experience is, I don't know, where I personally like to see it going. And I kind of worry that like we're kind of stuck in this mindset of, it's like a hiking book, like if Google navigation, instead of that, they've done like well, here's a possible route for like, if you want to go to a grocery store, like here's a printout of how you would, drive to a grocery store. And you'd be like, well, but I want to go this other place on the way. It's like, oh, sorry, you're going to have to do it the old way. So that's kind of the idea I'm pushing, is that like, if we can, that maybe there's a paradigm shift around it, that, that is not actually like what it is, today.
Yeah, I think it has a potential to become something like this. Unfortunately, certainly it's not something like this right now. So there will be this paradigm shift required, indeed.
Cool. Well, with that, we're over time. Thanks everybody for hanging in there. Great to see you, Grigorsh, and everybody else. Welcome back, Crystal, and talk to you all soon.
Thank you. Bye.